Okay, let's go ahead and get started. I just want to introduce myself. I'm Mircala and I handle communications for the Clerk and Recorder's Office, so welcome. I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Molly Fitzpatrick, our Clerk and Recorder, to get started.
Thank you, Mircala. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Perfect. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate you taking the time to learn a little bit more about the 2021 election, especially given that it is just right around the corner and we know everyone's calendars are filling up with election and non-election activities alike. So the purpose of this presentation is to provide some FAQs and to provide some information about our ballot processing operations and election security. So with that, we can go ahead and move forward. Okay, a little bit about me. So I am the Clerk and Recorder here in Boulder County. I was elected in the fall of 2018 and started in 2019. So this election is my 5th election with our office. And of course, we had the 3 elections last year, 2 of which were under pandemic scenarios. Prior to starting this role, I was in the voting rights and voter engagement space. And I have loved being the Clerk and Recorder here in Boulder County. It's been a pleasure serving the residents here in the county. I enjoy hearing about the positive experiences that the residents have when interacting with our office. That is my most favorite thing about being clerk so far.
Molly, you may just mention what the photos of.
Oh, thank you. This picture is of my dog Piper, who is my stress management dog in the busy times of elections and all around best friend. So that's who she is. Okay, a little bit about Boulder County voters. This is the makeup of our county. We have 234,000 active registered voters. In September of 2014, we only had 184,000 active registered voters. So I think this really does a good job of demonstrating the growth of Colorado and the growth of the county as well. As you can see, we have the majority of our voters are unaffiliated voters, followed by the Democratic Party and then the Republican Party, and then some other minor parties as well. But we do have a very big base of unaffiliated voters here in Boulder County, which I think most people know about, but we like to highlight that just for folks who aren't aware of that. So we can keep going. This is our active voters by city. As you can see, Boulder and Longmont are really within striking distance of each other. So a lot of folks just think about Boulder being the biggest city, which is true, but Longmont is just right behind the city of Boulder. And then we also have these active voter counts by city as well that you can see. Voter turnout. So as you all can imagine, we have very high turnout in midterm and presidential years. And in these smaller election years, turnout tends to decrease. But here in Boulder County, we do have elections every single year at the same time. And so we encourage people to vote in every single election, not just the big presidential or midterm elections. We know that it can be harder to find information. These tend to be lower information elections because the national media isn't necessarily talking about all of the local elections. So some of the resources that we like to let people know about are our own candidate hub. We have a candidate hub page on our website that links to all of the different candidate websites. We also encourage people to look for the newspaper information. They oftentimes do write-ups, and also the political party websites as well contain good information. But we really want to encourage everybody to vote, not just in those big years, but in those in these smaller years as well. Colorado is typically one of the leaders in the country in voter turnout, and we really do credit that to our accessible voting model, where all active registered voters automatically receive a ballot in the mail, and then they can have multiple options for how they would like to return that ballot, whether it's by mail, Dropbox, or just coming to vote in person. So this slide really does demonstrate the all options model that we have here in Colorado. One thing to highlight is that we modernized the way that we conduct elections in 2013. And so we have moved away from the precinct-based polling model to a vote center model. So voters here in Boulder County can go to any in-person vote center to register to vote or vote. If a voter is in an emergency and happens to be in another county on election day, they can go to any vote center in the state, but they will only be eligible to vote on statewide only ballot content. And then another thing that makes elections very unique and accessible is here in Colorado, we do not have a voter registration deadline. Voters can register to vote through and on election day. Here's a look at the election calendar, just a couple of things that we wanted to highlight for everyone. In October 5th through the 8th, we were conducting our logic and accuracy test. And this is a test, a pre-election test of the voting system, where we have bipartisan folks come into the office and actually conduct a test to ensure that the voting system is tabulating ballots accurately. After that test, we reset the voting system back to 0, so it's all ready to go for the election. And again, that is a bipartisan activity, and we did have complete sign-off on our logic and accuracy test in the beginning of October, which demonstrates that the voting system is ready to go. And where we are right now, we have opened up, we're in the point in the process where vote centers have been opened as of Monday. We're also implementing, or we have available, our ballot to go service, where a voter who needs to get a replacement ballot can call our ballot to go hotline, request that ballot over the phone, and then we will have a judge actually bring out the ballot to the voter when they drive up to our office. So it eliminates the need for someone to actually appear in a vote center. They can stay and get their ballot in the comfort of their car. And of course, we have Election Day on November 2nd. All ballots must be received by 7 p.m. We do have some processing activities that occur after November 2nd, even though most people think the election is done on November 2nd. We actually have multiple weeks to go until we get to ballot content certification, or ballot election certification, which happens on November 22nd, which is when we have our bipartisan review of the election and we have our canvass board meeting. And that is when the election results are certified. So after November 2nd, ballot processing will continue. We will be doing multiple updates throughout the week. November 10th is the deadline for UOCAVA ballot, and that's our military and overseas voters. They have until November 10th for their mail ballot to be received back to our office. And this is also the last day to cure a ballot envelope. So if a voter had a signature get rejected or forgot to sign or did not include an ID in with their ballot, they have until November 10th to get back to our office and still have their vote count. And then on November 16th, we have our risk limiting audit, and that is a post-election audit to validate that the outcomes of the election were correct. And again, that's a bipartisan activity and open to the public. And here are the ballot return options. We've touched on all of these in the beginning of this presentation, but again, 24-hour ballot boxes is the most popular way that voters return their ballots. That ballot box is under video surveillance. Vote centers, we have 4 in the county. Drive-by drop-off, if folks want to drive by and give their ballot to a person but not get out of their car, we will have 2 drive-by drop-off locations operating on election day in Longmont and Boulder. And then it is too late to mail your ballot. So if you know somebody that's still holding on to that ballot, please ensure that they know that they need to go ahead and drop it off in a 24-hour drop box or at a vote center. And of course, anyone can vote in person if that's what they would like to do. Mail ballot processing. So the next 2 slides are going to guide us through the steps that we take to process ballots once they are received back to our office. Every step of the process is designed to enhance accuracy, security, and transparency, and there are many steps that we take during this process to support our post-election audit. We know that there's a lot of public discourse right now around cybersecurity, but we also consider physical security to be just as important. And if you were to come to our ballot processing center, you would see that our operation is under camera. There are locked cages with restricted access. There's badged entry to get into secure areas, and we have election judges, workers, and staff with name tags, so we know who is who and who should be where. We also have monitors throughout the building so that the public can see what the process is that they're observing. And then we also have signage throughout the building as well, so the public and the watchers know what point in the process they are observing, what comes before, what comes next. So largely speaking, The ballots are brought back to our office from the post office and also from the 24-hour drop boxes, and they're checked in, and then they're moved from the ballot boxes and organized into mail trays to be sorted for our ballot envelope sorter and signature capture machine. This machine captures the voter's signature image for the judges. The judges then verify the voter's signature, and if the signature is verified, the voter is assigned vote credit in the statewide voter registration database, and the ballot envelope is securely transported upstairs for opening and separating. If the voter's signature cannot be immediately verified, it will be escalated to Tier 2, which is when two judges of different political parties will review that signature together using even more signatures from that voter's record. And again, if we cannot immediately determine that that is the signature, then that voter will get a letter to cure, and they will have until November 10th to cure their ballot and still have their vote count. And we'll go on to the next slide. So up until this point in the process, the ballot is still in its envelope. Once it's ready to go upstairs, it is securely transported to our second floor of our ballot processing center, where it is extracted to maximize voter anonymity and efficiency. And then it is brought over to teams of folks who then flatten the ballots so they can be run through the scanner, because as you can imagine, they've been folded in their ballot envelope. So we want to flatten them so they're nice and ready to go through the scanner. And they're also inspecting the ballots for anything that could impact the scanning process, such as a food or drink spill, or anything that could compromise voter anonymity. Some voters might make a mistake on their ballot, and then they might cross out the mistake, circle the correct or fill in the correct bubble for who they want to vote for or what they want to vote for, and then they might initial it or even sign their name. We definitely do not want that because we have a constitutional obligation to protect privacy. So what we would do is have a bipartisan team of judges work to duplicate that ballot using the Secretary of State guideline for voter intent, and that is what the ballot, that is the ballot that would go through the scanning process. From there, ballots are scanned in batches and votes are captured into our voting system, and then we start generating reports beginning at 7 p.m. One thing that we wanted to talk about in this presentation is mail ballot security. So this was especially big in the news last year around the mail ballot security system. And in Colorado, we have been using mail ballots for quite some time now. Every active registered voter has been receiving a ballot since 2013. And before that, even large subsets of voters were automatically requesting, or they were requesting to receive mail ballots. So we have a lot of experience and practice with mail ballots, and voters love them and we love them as well. So just to provide some context, we do have regular communication systems and structures with the USPS. We've got a long-standing partnership with them where we talk regularly and during election time, either weekly or bi-weekly. And the purpose of these communications are to ensure that everyone is on the same page with important milestones, deadlines, and if there's any issues coming up that need to be addressed, that we're talking about those as well. Here in Boulder County, we also enroll Boulder County voters in Ballot Track, and this is a tool that allows voters to follow the life cycle of their ballot, including when we mail their ballot, when we receive their ballot back to our office, and when their signature has been verified and is ready to be processed. We also use this tool as a way to let voters know if they receive or if we're not able to immediately verify their signature on their mail ballot envelope, or if there's some sort of issue. And so again, we automatically enroll Boulder County voters in this free service because it is so important and because we do get in touch about important election information as it relates to their ballot. We also have a ballot delivery by zip code tool, and this allows us to monitor how delivery is going on a daily basis. And if there's any particular issues in one area, we'll know about it soon. We also produced a report last year in September, and this is the Election Security Community Briefing Report. We highly encourage everyone, if you have not done so already, to please review this report and have it handy, because we know that if you're on this webinar, you're likely someone that's interested in elections, and then your friends and family know that you're interested in elections. So they might come to you with questions about our Colorado election model in Boulder County. And so this is a great resource to give to people. It's a 20-page comprehensive report that talks about the security of Colorado elections. Election security in Boulder County, we really consider this to be distilled into three the 3 pillars of Boulder County's security posture, including the Colorado election model, the partnerships that we have, and Boulder County election cybersecurity program. And we really wanted to frame it around these 3 pillars to make sure that it's digestible for the public and also talks about the breadth of the security posture that we have here in Colorado. So the first pillar is the Colorado election model. As we said in the beginning, the Colorado election model really is known to be an all options model. We are also known to be one of the safest states in which to cast a ballot, and that's for multiple reasons. Every voter votes on a paper ballot, and we also have security cameras for our ballot processing operations that are on 24/7 during election time. We also have 24-hour ballot drop boxes. These ballot drop boxes also have video surveillance running 24/7 during election time. We also have same-day voter registration, which is really important. If if for any reason a voter needs to register same day, they can do that. It's no problem for any reason. We also have signature verification. So what this means is that when a voter signs their ballot envelope, we compare that signature to the signature on file for that particular voter. And we do signature verification as a way to confirm identity. And we also follow Secretary of State guidelines for signature verification. And here in Boulder County, we also bring an additional handwriting expert to help train our election judges for what to look for. We also have multiple tests of the voting system, and as mentioned earlier, we have the pre-election logic and accuracy test, which is a bipartisan test to verify that the election voting system is tabulating as it should. And then we also have the statewide risk limiting audit. And this is something that we're really proud of in Colorado. Colorado is the first state in the country to fully operationalize the risk limiting audit, which is known as the gold star way to do election audits, because it is a statistical way to verify outcomes are correct while also maximizing the resources that are available for counties. And so far, we've been doing elections as a state since 2017, and there are 2 exceptions for counties that conduct hand count counties, so they don't participate, but everyone else does. We also have so many partnerships that we rely on to do our work, and we're lucky because bittersweet, but since 2016, there's been an influx of attention on elections. And so these are just a few of the many partners that we have. We have the Colorado Clerks Association. So all 64 counties in Colorado work very closely together to share best practices and resources for election security and training. We also have the Colorado Secretary of State. We conduct regular trainings with them as well. They do security trainings for us, and then we also participate in statewide tabletops where we actually practice executing contingency scenarios, and we also have regular channels of communication with the Secretary of State's office as well, so we can all be in the loop on any emerging concerns or things that we need to be thinking about or things that are occurring in other counties. We also have a great partnership with our local law enforcement office where we're getting together with them before each election to review what's new, what's changed, and if there's any situational awareness, either that they need to be aware about or on our end, if there's anything that we need to be aware of. The Elections Infrastructure ISAC is a great organization. It's a communication structure that allows information to flow easily from the federal government to the state government to the local government. And we'll go to the next slide. And then we also have Boulder County Cybersecurity Program. And again, all of this is detailed in our security report. And you can see from the previous slide that there are so many different resources available to counties. So we really want to ensure that we have a framework in order to maximize the way we think about strategically building a cybersecurity program here in Boulder County. We do rely on the NIST framework, which some of you might be familiar with. It's the National Institute of Standards and Technology. And this panel at the top really cuts across everything that we do, and we consider all of these things in our environment. A couple of examples include conducting regular tabletops to ensure that our staff is trained to execute emergency scenarios or contingency plans should we need to. We also think about who our vendors are. What do they do for security? How are we reviewing their security posture? We consider what data we have, how we protect that data, and who has access to that data. And we ensure that only the people that need access have access. And then, of course, we think about how we recover quickly if there ever is an issue to minimize the amount of impact to voters and to voter information and voter data. So those are just a few examples. We have even more examples detailed out in our security report. We also like to encourage voters to think about your role in election security and election confidence. With so much mis and disinformation out there, we want to make sure that folks are aware that a lot of these systems sometimes can get easily collapsed. And so we really want to have folks think about uncollapsing these systems to ensure that when we're talking about the voting system, we're talking about the voting system. If we're talking about the statewide voter registration system, we're talking about the statewide voter registration system. Are we talking about a county website? Are we talking about our processing equipment? There's so many different parts of the election, of what it takes to run an election, and we want to make sure that we're really uncollapsing all of those different parts when we're talking about election security, especially. And of course, it goes without saying that every single state in the country does it differently. Some people have paper ballots. Some people are still working to some states are still working to transition to more paper ballots. Some states have really robust auditing procedures, such as Colorado. And then, of course, some states are still in that polling place model and some aren't. So all of this goes to show that there are just extremely different ways to think about election security, and we want to make sure that people are considering all of the different elements of what it takes to run an election before jumping on the bandwagon and potentially spreading mis and disinformation. We wanted to bring attention to our election alert hotline. This was created in 2020 because we were seeing a lot of mis and disinformation being reported to our office. And so what this hotline allows us to do is organize information quickly and provide a way to maintain proper record keeping while escalating concerns to law enforcement quickly and effectively. And it also gives residents one avenue to report concerns. And for this year, we do have a Spanish language support feature that we now have that we didn't have last year. So we're excited to provide that service. And this is the way that you get in touch. The best way is electionalert@bouldercounty.org, or you can call this phone number, leave a voicemail, and we'll get back in touch with you. Additional work. So we just wanted to highlight a couple of things that our office has been doing outside of the election. And so far, a couple of main things: legislative work. We work actively with the Colorado Clerks Association to implement or influence on bills that we think will highlight voter security and voter accessibility. We worked very closely with the Legislative Clerks Association team on 6 legislative bills. We did want to highlight the work that we did on the legislative session on our website so the public can better see what our office is advocating for. So that's the way that you can go ahead and see what we did in the legislative session. We've also been working day and night on our security posture and emphasizing our tabletops. And so again, a tabletop is when we have our staff and our judges work together to actually practice a contingency scenario. We actually did this with our lead judges last week, and it went really well. Just making sure that people feel confident. It's one thing to get trained, and it's another thing to actually practice implementation. And so that's the purpose of these security exercises. And then we also just conducted a Department of Homeland Security walkthrough of our building, just to identify how we can continue improving our physical security features as well. Last, we released our first ever Clerk and Recorder Public Accountability and Services Report. This is now going to be like an annual report for the community that highlights our office accomplishments year after year. And this is for both motor vehicle recording and elections and our full office. So that's the link to find our Clerk and Recorder Services Report. We're really working hard to create a public accountability program where we house things like these legislative highlights and the services reports so the public can know what we're doing every single year in order to serve them best. And that's all we have. So here's some great resources. Of course, you can check your registration at govotecolorado.gov. We do encourage people to add their email address so our office can get in touch with you about important election information. And then we have a 2022 Vote Center and Dropbox survey open right now on our website. I know it seems early to think about 2022, but we are already planning for the 2022 election. So please let us know where you think we should have the drop boxes and the vote centers next year. Follow us on our social media accounts, especially on election night, for an update of when we'll be doing postings. And then you can subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can see videos like this one and other videos, including how we do signature verification, how we do ballot processing. So all of these are really great resources for you. And so with that, I thank you all for your time, and I will pass it back to Mercala.
Hello, everyone. If you do have any questions, you can drop them in the Q&A section there, and they'll pop up here. So we'll just give it a minute. Just a couple of things to emphasize, to re-emphasize for Molly. If you don't already get our voter emails, we only send a handful during the election process. But if you don't know what I'm talking about, you probably don't have a voter email on your registration record. So it's really helpful for us if you add that. Your email address is considered confidential, not part of the public voter file that goes to those that request the voter file. So that's just something to keep in mind. And again, yeah, that 2022 survey is up on the website. If you're on a desktop, it's in those blue boxes when you scroll down the web page, sort of the main menu area. Give it another minute if anyone has any questions. Well, no one has dropped any questions. You can always follow up by shooting back to the RSVP link. If you shoot me any questions, I'm happy to answer them, get answers for you if I can't answer them. And thank you for participating today. Take care, everyone. Thank you.